What if you woke up as a commoner in ancient Rome? You groan, a dull ache throbbing behind your eyes. The sun, a persistent intruder, burns through thin eyelids, pulling you from the depths of a dream you can't quite recall. As consciousness trickles back, so does a bewildering sense of disorientation. This isn't your bed. The mattress, if you can even call it that, is a lumpy, straw-filled sack that smells vaguely of mildew and something else you can't quite place. Your room, no, your cubicle, is tiny, barely big enough for the cot and a small, rickety wooden chest. The walls are rough, unplastered brick, and the light filtering in isn't from a window, but from a small, high opening near the ceiling, covered with a grimy piece of oiled parchment. The air is thick, humid, and carries a strange, earthy scent mingled with something acrid. Panic, cold and sharp, begins to prickle at your skin. Where are you? What happened? You try to sit up and a sharp pain shoots through your lower back. Your body feels different. Heavier, perhaps, and a quick glance at your hands reveals rough, calloused skin, not the smooth, well-maintained hands you remember. This isn't right. This is profoundly, terrifyingly wrong. Then the sounds begin to filter in, not as background noise, but as a cacophony that assaults your senses. The distant rhythmic clang of a blacksmith's hammer, the braying of a donkey, startlingly close, the insistent high-pitched squawk of chickens, and overriding it all, a constant surging murmur of human voices, a language you don't understand, rising and falling like the tide. You stumble out of the cot, your bare feet meeting a cold, uneven dirt floor. A rough tunic made of scratchy wool is laid out beside the chest. With trembling fingers you pull it on. It's ill-fitting, too loose in some places, too tight in others. Your reflection, caught in a small, polished bronze disc on the chest, is a shock. Your face, though undeniably yours, is leaner, etched with a subtle weariness you've never seen before. Your hair is longer, unkempt, and your eyes hold a bewildered, almost frightened glint. This is not a dream, this is real. You are here, wherever here is. Hesitantly, you push open the flimsy wooden door of your cubicle. You step out into a narrow, dimly lit hallway. Other doors line the corridor, and from behind them you can hear rustling, muted conversations and the occasional cough. The building feels ancient, its timbers groaning under unseen stresses. You find a stairwell, steep and worn, leading downwards. With each step, the sounds from outside grow louder, more distinct. The murmur transforms into a roar, punctuated by sharper, more defined noises. As you reach the bottom, you push through another door, and then, boom! You are slammed by a sensory overload so profound it makes you gasp. You're standing on the edge of a narrow, unpaved street. The air hits you first, a potent cocktail of wood smoke, animal dung, stale sweat, and something vaguely metallic. It's thick, almost tangible, and instantly clogs your nostrils. Visually, it's a riot. Buildings, 3 or 4 stories high, lean precariously over the street, their upper floors jutting out like menacing brows. They're constructed from a mix of sun-dried mud bricks, timber, and rough-hewn stone. Their facades a patchwork of peeling plaster and exposed, weather-beaten wood. Laundry, an assortment of tunics and cloaks in muted browns and undyed whites, hangs from lines strung between buildings, flapping like weary flags. The street itself is a river of humanity. People throng past you, a constant, urgent current. Men in various states of undress, some in simple tunics, others in togas that look more practical than formal. Women, their hair covered or intricately braided, move with purposeful strides, often carrying baskets or leading small children. Their faces are tanned, their expressions a mix of concentration and resignation. And the sounds. The sheer volume is deafening. The clatter of wooden sandals on the rough ground. The rhythmic creak of wooden cartwheels pulled by donkeys or oxen, their drivers shouting in that alien tongue. The insistent cries of street vendors, their voices rising and falling in sing-song patterns, hawking everything from warm bread to dried figs. The insistent bleating of a goat being herded down the street. The distant booming echo of what sounds like a large crowd cheering, or perhaps shouting in protest. And underlying it all, the incessant chattering hum of 1,000 conversations, a wave of human sound that never fully recedes. You press yourself against the rough wall of a building, trying to make sense of the chaos. A man brushes past you, his shoulder roughly bumping yours. He mumbles something in a guttural voice, and you instinctively apologize, even though you don't understand him. He just grunts and keeps moving, a basket of squawking chickens balanced on his head. A sudden, sharp smell, sweet and cloying, makes you wrinkle your nose. You look down to see a small open drain running along the edge of the street, carrying a murky stream of liquid. Waste, you realize with a jolt, both human and animal, flows openly. This is not the pristine, idealized Rome of your history books. This is raw, visceral, and overwhelmingly real. You take a deep, shaky breath, trying to calm the frantic thumping of your heart. You are a commoner in ancient Rome, and your day has just begun. Part 1. The harsh realities of the insula. You slowly detach yourself from the wall, forcing yourself to move, to blend in, however awkwardly. The sheer press of bodies is overwhelming, and you quickly learn to move with a defensive awareness, keeping your elbows tucked in, your eyes constantly scanning. You are in an insula, a multi-story apartment building, and judging by your cramped room, you are on one of the upper floors, the cheapest, most precarious, and least desirable. The ground floor of your insula, like many others, houses small shops and workshops. As you walk past, you glimpse a baker kneading dough with strong flour-dusted arms. The scent of fresh bread, a surprising comfort in the midst of the urban assault. Next to him, a potter sits hunched over a wheel, his hands deftly shaping clay. A cobbler, his face illuminated by a flickering oil lamp even in the morning light, taps rhythmically at a piece of leather. The sounds of these trades add another layer to the city's symphony. The rhythmic thud of the baker's dough, the soft whir of the potter's wheel, the sharp rap of the cobbler's hammer. These are the sounds of survival, of lives being lived, day in and day out. You notice a communal water fountain just outside your insula, a simple stone basin fed by a steady stream from an aqueduct. Women and children gather there, filling clay amphorae and leather skins. Their chatter is lively, punctuated by laughter. You realize how thirsty you are, your throat dry and scratchy from the dust-laden air. Hesitantly you approach, waiting your turn. When you finally reach the fountain, the water is cool and surprisingly refreshing, washing away some of the grit from your mouth. You spend the next hour simply observing, trying to absorb the rhythms of this bewildering new existence. You watch children, surprisingly well-behaved, playing with simple wooden toys or chasing a stray dog. You see elderly men, their faces deeply lined, sitting on stoops, watching the world go by with an air of ancient wisdom. You witness arguments erupting, loud and passionate, only to dissipate as quickly as they began. The sun climbs higher and the heat intensifies. The air grows heavier, more suffocating. You notice the shadows shortening, offering less respite from the relentless glare. You realize you have no idea what your job is or where you're supposed to go. This feeling of helplessness is perhaps the most terrifying aspect of your new reality. You have no money, no connections, and no understanding of the language. You are utterly adrift. A sudden rumble of stomachs reminds you that you haven't eaten. The smell of the baker's fresh bread is now an unbearable torment. You spot a small food stall, a thermopolium, selling hot gruel and stew. The aroma is enticing, but you have nothing to offer in return. The harsh reality of your situation settles in, cold and unforgiving. Survival here means work, and you have no idea how to even begin. Part 2. The morning commute, a throng of humanity. As the morning progresses, the city's energy only seems to intensify. More and more people spill onto the streets, and the thoroughfares already congested become almost impassable. This is the morning rush, Roman style. You find yourself swept along by the current of pedestrians, moving almost instinctively towards what feels like the heart of the city. The noise level is incredible. The shouts of street vendors are more insistent now, their calls echoing through the narrow canyons of the streets. Pulse, collider, hot porridge, garum, the finest fish sauce, pain, fresh bread. The sounds of commerce are everywhere. The rhythmic tapping of a metalworker's hammer, the sharp slap of a laundryman beating clothes clean in a tub, the distant, mournful cry of a knife sharpener. You notice the variety of people around you. While many are commoners like yourself, dressed in simple tunics, you also see wealthier citizens, identifiable by their cleaner, often whiter togas, sometimes accompanied by slaves. These slaves, often dressed in plain, practical clothing, move with a quiet efficiency, carrying scrolls or running errands. The stark social hierarchy is immediately apparent, even without understanding the nuances of dress or speech. The smells intensify too. The earthy scent of the unpaved streets, often dampened by overnight rain or spillage, mixes with the ever-present aroma of wood smoke from countless cooking fires. There's the sweet, pungent smell of fruit from a vendor's stall, juxtaposed with the less pleasant odor of animal waste and stagnant water from the drains. Sometimes a waft of something surprisingly pleasant, fragrant spices, or the delicate scent of incense from a temple, cuts through the general miasma, offering a fleeting moment of respite. The architecture is a constant source of wonder and bewilderment. Beyond the leaning insulae, you catch glimpses of grander structures, temples with their imposing columns, public baths, and markets. These buildings, constructed from marble and finely cut stone, stand in stark contrast to the humble dwellings of the common people. They speak of a powerful, organized society, even amidst the apparent chaos of the streets. You pass by a public latrine, an open-air facility with multiple stone seats. The sight is both shocking and oddly practical. People sit side by side, engaging in conversation, seemingly unconcerned by the lack of privacy. The smell is predictably overwhelming, and you quickly hurry past, trying to breathe through your mouth. The lack of sanitation is a constant, unavoidable presence. Piles of refuse accumulate in corners, waiting to be collected or simply left to decompose. Stray dogs and cats scavenge freely. Flies, buzzing and persistent, are everywhere. It's a harsh reminder of a world without modern hygiene. You are acutely aware of the dust. It rises from the unpaved streets with every footstep, every passing cart, coating everything in a fine, gritty layer. It settles on your skin, in your hair, and makes your throat feel perpetually dry. Suddenly, a commotion ahead makes you stop. A small, yapping dog has darted into the path of a cart, and the driver, shouting angrily, has to rein in his donkey sharply. The donkey brays in protest, and a woman nearby screams, convinced the dog will be crushed. The incident is over in seconds, the dog unharmed, the cart continuing its journey, but it leaves you rattled. Life here is cheap, and accidents seem to be a constant threat. You eventually emerge into a wider space, a bustling market area. This is where the city's heart truly beats. Part 3. The Forum, a symphony of life and commerce. You find yourself on the edge of a vast, open space, a grand public square. This must be the Forum. The sheer scale of it is breathtaking. Colonnaded buildings line its edges, their marble facades gleaming in the sunlight. Statues of emperors and gods stand tall, silent guardians, overseeing the daily life of the city. The noise here is even more intense than in the narrow streets. The Forum is a maelstrom of activity. Politicians deliver speeches from rostrums, their voices booming across the square, amplified by the natural acoustics of the space. Lawyers argue cases in basilicas, their impassioned pleas sometimes carrying through the open doorways. Merchants hawk their wares, their cries mingling with the general hum of thousands of conversations. The ground beneath your feet is no longer dirt, but paved with large, uneven stone slabs, worn smooth by centuries of foot traffic. This is a place of power, of commerce, of public life. You wander through the crowds, trying to remain inconspicuous. The smell of freshly baked bread is strong here, from the numerous stalls selling food. You see vendors offering fresh produce, figs, grapes, olives, pomegranates, piled high in wicker baskets. The vibrant colors are a welcome contrast to the muted tones of the buildings. You pass a money changer's stall, where coins clink and jingle as transactions are made. The sounds of metal on metal are sharp and precise. Nearby, a group of men are engaged in a lively debate, their gestures animated, their voices rising and falling with passion. It's clear they're discussing politics, the lifeblood of Roman society. The Forum is also a place of public display. You see notices carved into stone or painted on temporary boards, announcing upcoming games, new laws, or public proclamations. Information, you realize, is disseminated in a very different way here. The heat is now truly oppressive. The sun beats down mercilessly and the air shimmers above the stone pavement. You seek refuge in the shade of a portico, leaning against a cool stone column. From here, you can observe the endless pageant of Roman life unfolding before you. You see wealthy matrons, accompanied by their slaves, browsing the stalls for fine fabrics or jewelry. You see soldiers, their armor glinting, marching in formation, their boots making a heavy, rhythmic thud on the pavement. You see philosophers engaging in deep discussion, surrounded by eager students. The sheer diversity of humanity is astounding. People from all corners of the vast Roman Empire pass through the Forum. Greeks, Egyptians, Gauls, Syrians, each adding their own subtle nuances to the city's vibrant tapestry. You hear snatches of different languages, though Latin remains the dominant tongue. The sound of water is a constant, soothing presence from the numerous fountains scattered throughout the Forum. The gentle splash and gurgle provide a welcome counterpoint to the relentless clamor of human activity. A sudden, piercing cry makes you jump. A man, seemingly possessed, is shouting prophecies and curses at the top of his lungs, his voice hoarse with fervor. People mostly ignore him, accustomed to such sights, but a few children point and giggle. It's a reminder of the raw, unfiltered nature of public life here. You realize that for many commoners, the Forum isn't just a place of commerce or politics, but also a social hub, a place to see and be seen, to gather news and to connect with others. It's a vibrant, living organism, constantly buzzing with energy. As the morning wears on, the shadows begin to shift, growing longer once more. The intensity of the sun, though still strong, begins to wane ever so slightly. Part 5. The Afternoon, Labor and Leisure. As the afternoon wears on, the pace of the city begins to change subtly. The frantic energy of the morning gives way to a more sustained hum. Many people are still at work, but others are beginning to seek leisure. You notice an increasing number of people heading towards the public baths. The sounds of lively chatter and splashing water become more pronounced. For commoners, the baths are a vital part of daily life, offering not just cleanliness, but also opportunities for exercise, socializing, and relaxation. The thought of a warm bath, washing away the dust and grime of this ancient city, is incredibly appealing. You finally gather your courage and approach a small group of laborers who are taking a break from unloading amphorae from a cart. You try to mimic their gestures, pointing to the amphorae and then to yourself, trying to convey that you are willing to work. They look at you, their faces unreadable, and exchange a few words in their rapid Latin. One of them, a burly man with a weathered face, grunts something and gestures towards an empty amphora. A surge of relief so powerful it almost brings tears to your eyes, washes over you. You understand. He's giving you a chance. You quickly grab the amphora, surprisingly heavy even when empty, and begin to carry it towards the designated storage area. Your muscles protest, unaccustomed to such strenuous labor, but you push through the pain, fueled by the desperate need for sustenance. The work is grueling. You spend the next few hours hauling heavy amphorae, sacks of grain and bundles of goods. The sun beats down on your back and sweat stings your eyes. Your hands, already calloused, begin to ache. The other laborers, though initially wary, gradually accept you into their ranks, occasionally offering a gruff word of encouragement or a shared joke you don't understand but appreciate nonetheless. The sounds of labor are constant, the grunts of exertion, the rhythmic thud of heavy objects being placed down, the creak of cart wheels, the occasional shouted instruction. You learn to move with efficiency, to conserve energy, to work alongside others in a silent rhythm. As the sun begins its final descent towards the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, the work finally stops. Your muscles scream in protest, every joint aching. The foreman, the same burly man who gave you a chance, approaches you. He hands you a few small copper coins, asses. It's not much, but it's enough. Enough for food, enough for a night's shelter. The sense of accomplishment is profound. You've survived your first day in ancient Rome. You've earned your keep. With your few coins clutched tightly in your hand, you head straight for the nearest thermopolium. The aroma of hot food is a beacon. You point to a steaming bowl of pulse, a thick porridge made of grain, and a piece of flatbread. The vendor, a stout woman with a kindly face, takes your coins and hands you the food. You find a quiet corner to sit, away from the boisterous crowds. The pulse is coarse but warm and filling, and the bread is surprisingly delicious. It's the best meal you've ever had, not because of its culinary excellence, but because of the sheer relief it brings. As you eat, you observe the world around you. The city is slowly transitioning from the hustle and bustle of daytime to the softer, more intimate sounds of evening. The shouts of vendors are fewer, replaced by the murmur of conversation from people lingering in the taverns or gathering in courtyards. The air begins to cool, and the golden light of the setting sun bathes the ancient buildings in a soft, ethereal glow. The harsh edges of the city seem to soften, taking on a more romantic quality. Part 6. Evening. The city at dusk. As the last vestiges of sunlight fade from the sky, the city undergoes another transformation. The bright, bustling chaos of the day gives way to a more subdued, yet still vibrant, atmosphere. The streets, though less crowded, are by no means empty. People are still out and about, especially those who work late or are enjoying the cooler evening air. The sounds change too. The sharp, incessant clamor of the day mellows into a richer, deeper hum. You hear the distant strains of a lyre or a flute from a nearby tavern, a melancholic melody that drifts through the air. The laughter from the coponi is still present, but it feels less boisterous, more relaxed. The rhythmic clang of the blacksmith has ceased, replaced by the softer sounds of conversations and footsteps. Oil lamps and torches begin to flicker to life, casting dancing shadows on the ancient walls. The light is dim, creating pockets of intimacy amidst the sprawling darkness. Navigating the unlit streets requires careful attention, as the uneven pavement and lurking refuse pose tripping hazards. You notice more couples strolling hand in hand, enjoying the evening air. Families gather on stoops, sharing stories and quiet conversation. The sense of community, though perhaps less overtly demonstrated during the day, feels stronger now. The smells of the city also shift. The heat of the day having dissipated, the more pungent odors seem to recede somewhat, replaced by the comforting aroma of wood smoke from hearths and cooking fires, and the occasional waft of fragrant incense from a nearby temple where evening rituals might be underway. You return to your insula, its upper floors now almost completely dark, save for the occasional flicker of a lamp behind a parchment-covered opening. The hallway is quieter than it was in the morning, but you can still hear the murmur of voices and the rustling of people settling down for the night. Back in your tiny cubicle, you sit on your lumpy cot, the fatigue of the day finally catching up to you. Your body aches, your mind is reeling, but there's also a strange sense of accomplishment, a newfound respect for the sheer resilience of the human spirit. You reflect on the day, the overwhelming sensory assault, the constant threat of disease, the backbreaking labor, the language barrier. It all seemed insurmountable at first, but you adapted. You survived. The sounds outside your room are now muted, a gentle symphony of the sleeping city. The distant barking of a dog, the gentle rustling of leaves from a lone tree in a nearby courtyard, the soft whisper of the wind through the cracks in the walls, and, most prominently, the distant, rhythmic chirping of crickets, a universal sound of twilight. You close your eyes, the rough wool of your tunic scratching against your skin. You drift off, not to the familiar hum of your modern world, but to the sounds of ancient Rome, a world that is now undeniably your own. The future is uncertain, but one thing is clear. You have been reborn, not as a tourist, but as a commoner, in the heart of the mightiest empire the world has ever known. And tomorrow, the struggle and the wonder will begin anew. And so, our journey ends, for now. Imagine waking up in that world, stripped of everything familiar, forced to adapt, to survive, to become a part of that ancient tapestry. What would you do? How would you navigate the chaos, the beauty, the harsh realities? This thought experiment, while fictional, offers a fascinating glimpse into the lives of the common people of ancient Rome, a perspective often overlooked in our grand narratives of emperors and legions. Their daily grind, their struggles, their small joys, the constant sensory input of their lives, these are the foundations upon which an empire was built. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the mundane yet mesmerizing daily life of a Roman commoner, hit that like button. Let me know in the comments below what aspect of ancient Roman daily life surprised you the most, or what era you'd like to wake up in next. Don't forget to subscribe for more historical journeys and thought experiments. Until next time, keep exploring the past.